You can see this beautiful website designed with only HTML and CSS. So this is the next project we'll be working on. You can see, so we have the nav bar, we have the header section, then the real page. You can see the about us. Then this is just a simple landing page for a website. So this is what we are going to be designing. We're going to create, we are creating another folder as usual. So I'm going to create a new folder here. Let's call the name of the folder landing page. You can name your folder anything you want to name it. Okay, so that's it. So let's go to our Visual Studio Code. Then let's go to File, Open Folder. Then you go to your folder where you create the folder. Then select the folder. So the next thing now is to click on the file here. Click on a new file. Then you can write index.html. Then the next thing, create another file, style.css. Okay, so this is where we are going to be writing our code. So click on Shift, then the element, then click on Tab. So to bring out the HTML snippet for you. This project is actually good for beginners because you'll be learning page sectioning, layout structure, background images, typography hierarchy, buttons, spacing, basic responsiveness. So this is what you'll be learning. And then you are going to be building the hero section, the menu preview, the about section, the contact section. All right. So the skills you are going to learn, you are going to learn the section layout, the background images, buttons, typography. Then you will learn how to structure your folder very well. All right, so let's get started. All right, so for your title, you write the foodie restaurant. All right, then for the link, that's after the title, link. You put your style.css. All right, then for the body, so let's put some comments here. Navbar, so we have the navbar here. Navbar. All right, so we are going to bring in the header, then the nav. So the nav is going to be in the header. All right, so we are going to introduce a class inside the nav class. Then we have the nav bar as a class. Then inside the nav bar we have our h1. The h1 has a class as well, which we have our logo. We have the logo which is Foodie Palace. All right, moving on, we have the UL, and we have the class. as nav links. Then we have the li. All right. So inside the li, we are going to put a link in there. A. All right. Then href. So for now, let's put the hashtag there. Then between the lists option, we are going to put the home. So we have the home. All right. So let's make a copy of all this. Then let's duplicate all this. Let's duplicate this. Then paste, paste, paste. All right. So let's make some changes here. So here I have contact. Then up here I have the about. Then here we have menu. Okay. So we've closed the header. So remember, anything you open, you close. You can see anything you open, you close. Then the next one is the hero section. So let's give some space. Then bring in your comment. Let's bring in our comment. This is the hero section. Hero section. All right. So we are going to bring in the section tag. So the section is going to have a class of hero. All right. So the next thing here now, let's close this. So you open the section, you close the section. Then inside the section, we have a div. We have a div. Then the div also have a class. All right. Which is hero content. Hero content. All right. So inside the div, we have the h2. H2. Then inside the H2 we have the heading, delicious food for every delicious food for every month. Okay, delicious food for every mood. Then under the H2, we are going to put in our paragraph. We have the paragraph. Then inside the paragraph, we have fresh meals, beautiful atmosphere, unforgettable taste. Save. All right. So under the paragraph, we have the button. We have the button. Inside the button, we have order now. Order now. All right. So we are done with the hero session. So next thing is to bring in. Next thing is to bring in the menu section. All right. So let's give some space as usual. So this is the menu section. The reason for breaking everything down like this is for you to be able to read your code. It's for readability. All right, this is the menu section. Comment is very, very important. This is the menu section. Then we are going to bring in session as well. Session. All right. So our session is going to have a class. Class, which is menu. All right. Inside the class, we have our H2. The H2 also has a class. All right. Session, session title, session title. Then inside the H2, we have popular dishes. Popular dishes. Okay. Still under the H2, we have div classes. So div class, then inside the class, we name the class menu container. Menu container. All right. So inside the div, we still have another div. Please don't make mistake. We have div. Then that div also has a class of card. All right. All right. So for the sake of this project, we are going to be using an online image from unsplash.com. All right. So I'm going to give the link to the image in the video description below. You can check. So the link to the image is there. I'm going to place the link here. All right. So moving on. So under the image, we have the H3. Under the image, we have the H3. We have H3. All right. And that's the name of the image. H3. Then Italian pizza. Italian pizza. Save. Then paragraph. We have hot cheesy pizza with fresh toppings. With fresh toppings. All right. So you save that. So moving on, you create another div for the next image. You understand? Div. Then the div is going to have a class. The same class with the one above. Card. All right. Then we have our image. Image. Then we bring in the link to the other image. All right. So I'm going to paste it that way. Then so we have our H3. H3 classic burger. All right. Then paragraph. So let's fill in the paragraph. Juicy grilled burger with crispy fries. All right. So save that. Okay, so then we bring in the third image too. We bring in the third image as well. So first div, then let's put in our class card again. All right, so we are going to bring in um the next image. We are going to bring in the next image, paste it in there, then our H3 LD salad. All right, then we have our paragraph to be fresh vegetable with creamy dressing. All right, so let's save this. Let's save this. Now we've not checked our what we've been doing since, so let's go and check. Let's check it online. All right, so this is how our page is looking. You can see it's looking ugly. So it's looking ugly. This is not looking that good, but we are still going to bring in the CSS. Just like I said, the CSS is like a design. You understand? It's like a design for your HTML structure. All right, so moving on, we are going to bring in the about section. The about section. Okay, so let's bring in the comment. This is about section. About section. All right, so we bring in session. Session. All right, so the section is going to have a class. The section is going to have a class, then about, then after that we are going to bring in the div. The div is also going to have a class, about slash text. Okay, hyphen text. All right, so we have h2 about us, about us, about us, then we have a paragraph there. So we have, let's bring in some text in. All right, so we have that. Then we have another paragraph in there. All right, so let's bring in another div. So the div is going to have a class of about text. Okay, image. Then let's paste in our image from unsplash.com. So we paste our image there. All right. So we are done about the about section. All right. So moving on, we are going to the contact section. So as usual, we bring in the comment. All right. Contact section. All right. We have the session. We have the class. Then bring in your contact. Contact. Let's delete one of these. Okay. So the next thing now is to put in H2. H2. Then the H2 will also have a class. All right. So session title, then contact us. All right. Then it's going to have a form. We are going to have class, which is contact form. All right. So inside the form, we have input. Input will be text. Then we are going to have a placeholder. So let's just type your name for the placeholder. Your name. Then we are going to have another input, email. Then the placeholder will be your email. All right. So then we are still going to have text area. The placeholder. So ignore the ID, ignore the name. The placeholder will be your message. All right. So that is it. So then we have the button. Then put the button type, submit. All right. Then we have send message. All right. So then the last session we are going to talk about is the footer session. So as usual, we are going to put in our footer, our comment. So the comment has footer. All right. So we are going to bring in the footer tag. Then inside the footer tag, we have a paragraph. Let's bring in the paragraph. Then we have something here that you can see this thing here. This is called copyright. So to get this, go to your code, then get your ampersand, then copy something like that. Then 2026 full D palace. All right. Then the palace. Then we have this. Then all right, all right reserved. Okay. All right reserved. Then we are done with the HTML. All right. So the next thing we are going to do now is to check our page. Refresh that. You can see our page is still looking very ugly. All right, this is just a landing page, so it's looking very ugly. So now we are going to bring in our CSS to style this up. All right, thank you.